And we are live on the air. Hi, everyone. It's Sleepy Reader Damien, and I'm here with one of my favorite Canadians in the world, Terrence, ComicKkrakk.
One of
I'm afraid Brian K. Vaughan has put the whole Canadian thing in my head.
It's true. Yeah, he has. Yeah.
Hi. I just read We Stand on Guard #3 or whichever one it is, the newest one.
Yeah.
Just last night before going to bed, which probably wasn't a good idea.
Yeah, it's the same. I did about the same thing. What's up? Sorry, 1 second. Sorry.
Hi.
We're on there.
So I was a
Hi. Sorry. I was just realizing I made a mistake and had my video open.
I was a Tetris master and I got to put my name in, but then it didn't save it. Is there a way to save it?
No, I don't think so. Sorry, we just got a Nintendo from a thrift store today. So we're both kind of excited. We're not really video game people, but this one is kind of something that we've linked onto. Sorry about that. Yes, I just read the same thing last night, actually. I just read #3 last night as well.
Yeah, with the advanced future torture.
Which I actually thought was kind of funny when they introduced the father.
I mean, funny in a really nasty way. Yeah,
it really was. Yes, yeah. Because I mean, whenever you think of torture, you just think of these horrible things, and like we're going to drown and burn you at the same time. It's like, oh my God, that sounds horrific. And then when they presented the other one, it was like, oh my God, that's really horrific, just in a different way. And she cracked right away. So I took it as a little bit of tongue in cheek. Like I took it as a little bit. How did you take it?
I wasn't sure how to take it. Whether to, I mean, because there's kind of a snicker, just because it's like it's a horrible joke, but But I don't know if he intended it that way or was like, look, not only can I take a jab at Americans and the military and torture, I can take a jab at fathers who molest their daughters too. And look, you molest your daughter, that's worse than boiling her in oil.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know, because an interesting thing is one of the letters in this issue accuses him of his liberal politics. And he says, I never state my politics.
Yeah.
I'm always like dancing around with Brian K. Vaughan and things like this of, how much is he trying to take little jabs at whoever he thinks doesn't agree with him or whatever. I don't know.
Well,
but
I think
it was a clever twist. I certainly didn't see it coming.
Yeah, for sure. Me neither. Yeah. I mean, I think just like any writer, he's got his perspective, and I think his perspective kind of comes through. I mean, I don't quite have a handle on this book yet. I mean, I think so far it's entertaining and it's this idea, but it still feels like there's some sort of twist coming, where the story is really going to kick in. This still feels like kind of setup of the world, setup of the people, setup of what they're going to achieve. And it just feels like in a couple issues, there's going to be some big twist that's going to turn the whole thing on its ear. That's how it reads. I mean, and part of me kind of hopes.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Sorry, part of you kind of what?
Sorry, say that again.
I cut you off by saying I totally agree. You were starting to say part of me totally something.
Part of me hopes that does happen. I mean, I don't dislike it the way that it is now, but I kind of hope for my continued reading of it that there is some big kind of turn that happens,
Right. Well, one possible twist is we're revealed something which suddenly makes us think that Canadians are evil, despite all we've seen.
Exactly, and that's kind of what I'm expecting.
I feel like he can't win here, because I'm going to be annoyed if he pulls that twist, and if he doesn't pull that twist, I'm going to be annoyed, because then the Americans are all bad. And so I just, in general, I feel a no-win feeling when reading it.
Oh yeah.
And my own liberalness maybe is slightly different than his, but one of the issues that was always really big for me, like when I voted for Obama, is I was hoping he was going to end U.S. involvement in any kind of torture. And one of the flaws with lots of modern storytelling, whether it's comics or TV or whatever, is they always present torture as a useful and viable tool for gaining information. Yeah. And while here the character toughed out a whole bunch of torture. Once they found the right torture, bingo, they got exactly the information they needed. So it kind of just like most other comic books, when they involve torture, reinforces the idea that torture is other than its moral ambiguity, it's a good way to go if you want information.
Yeah.
And normally I'll say, well, it's just Batman or whatever. You know what I mean? But this is Vaughn seeming to be wanting to make big statements and preach to me on a certain level. So then I argue with it more. Well, so I just had a lot of mixed feelings, I guess.
I think that kind of ties into the whole thing, though, because I mean, once we get a few more issues in, we'll see exactly how much this is kind of I'm going to preach to you right now, because I'm not convinced that it is yet. It's still kind of early enough where, like I just to reiterate, I guess, is basically what I said before, that I just can't see his angle yet, I guess, is where I'm at with reading it.
And I've heard some people say that it's supposed to be just 6 issues or 7 issues. Oh, really? And if that's the case, it's got to turn pretty quickly.
Yeah. I didn't hear.
You didn't hear me?
That, yeah.
I cut out?
No, you're good. I can still hear you. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So if it's a long, I am hoping it's a longer series so that there can be more nuances and twists and turns and different sides explored. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I think because I read it just before going to bed, it really got to me.
Oh, really? Hey, okay. Yeah.
So I felt really depressed by it.
Really? Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah, I didn't have that.
It feels real enough that it, yeah.
Huh.
But I guess in a way it's good. I mean, it's really well written, really well drawn. So it's an effective book for me.
Yeah. No, I'm liking it so far. I think it's great. And then, of course, every issue when they're, anywhere close to where I live is always kind of, it's that kind of The Simpsons driving back to Winnipeg. There was an infamous episode for us where they were going back to Winnipeg. So I was kind of cheap thrills out of that sort of thing. It's like a rock star coming and saying, "How you doing, Winnipeg?" You know what I mean? It's that kind of cheap, easy applause. But I kind of like it, though.
Right.
So what else did you get this week that you enjoyed?
Well, I don't know if you've heard of this. Welcome Back.
No, I haven't heard of that one.
I have to credit Matt. I always want to call him Agent 42Q. Matt Wednesday Serial. He talked about this and kind of raved about it on his video. So I happened to be in a comic book store looking for some other comics, and this was available, so I grabbed it, and I like it quite a bit. It's listed as one of 4, but it feels like it could go on longer. But it's one of these reincarnation stories where people eventually wake up to who they are and their eternal conflict they've been having between people. But it's done with some nice little twists. Like the main hero is the stepdaughter of a serial killer, and all these people who are obsessed with serial killers always want to get to know her. And the serial killer has been caught and is in jail. They want to get to know her. They want, she has this weird celebrity by being the stepdaughter of a serial killer. And at the end of the first issue, it looks like, so maybe her serial killer stepdad is dead. It looks like he may be reincarnated too. So that really caught my attention. So now I'm excited to read the rest of the issues.
Yeah.
It has a nice semi kind of indie art style, a little bit like Becky Cloonan, a little bit of like some others. So I'm always a little cautious about getting Boom books. Some of them are good, but some of them are just meh. But this seems to be a good one. And so I didn't notice this till I heard the writer interviewed, but it's Welcome Back, but the L in welcome is a different color. So you could read it, We Come Back. So
nice. Very nice.
So anyway, that's an interesting one to keep an eye out for if you stumble across it.
Yeah, especially a 4-issue mini. Yeah, those are always great to grab.
It is a $4 book, which I guess in Canada is. Are you suffering from the exchange rate? Does that continue to?
In some of the places they charge the American price. That's kind of their deal to get you to come into their shop. So if it's $3.99 US, they'll charge you $3.99 Canadian and take a bit of a loss. But that really varies. There's one shop, for example, that was doing that. And then just recently, within the past couple of months, he decided he couldn't afford to do that anymore because the gap was growing and growing. He's like, I'm losing too much. So I'm going to have to charge you a little bit more. But he wasn't charging us the the exact exchange, he was still kind of giving you a bit of a discount. So you were somewhere in the middle of the two prices, which is a pretty good one. That's a pretty good way to go.
Yeah.
And the shop that I went to on the weekend, Galaxy, I think they're charging the Canadian prices, but honestly, I didn't pay that close attention when I was buying this weekend.
Yeah.
So.
And you mentioned finding 50-cent comics, so those are 50-cent Canadian. So that's a very good deal.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, and just some real luck with that too. So I mean, that's it's hard to. We were just saying before about how it's hard to pass up the 50-cent bins for me, or for us anyway. And I think it's just hard to pass up comic bins. Period. I mean, anytime I go out to flea markets or whatever, used bookstores, wherever they have a box of comics, I always end up just leafing through them and picking out one or two. I mean, it's really. I've managed to settle down on the amount that I'll get. Even in the 50-cent bins, I'll set like a limit. Like the haul video that I just had was, I just limited myself to $25. So $50, that was it, you know? So it seemed like a pretty good number. It seemed like a good amount of comics. Yeah. There was a lot more there that I could have grabbed, but it's hard. And that's part of the whole hobby. I have to really police myself as far as that kind of thing goes, you know? Just going in with a set number in mind and set things to buy or whatever it happens to be, whatever criteria. But
yeah, I usually try to top out at 50. I think that's how many I got the last time I was at a cheap inn too. Although it wasn't 50 cents, it was 75 cents.
Still not bad.
Yeah. So anyway, I was just curious about that because I think I heard Carnage Man complain about his shops, the prices going up. You can't blame the shops. I mean, they're taking the loss.
For sure.
But it also means he could buy less comics.
Well, and the one that I was talking about first, this one it's called Mighty Comics that just changed theirs recently. And I mean, he's a one-man operation in there. So he's a really small shop. So if he's taking a hit, because he's not getting high traffic, he's in a relatively high traffic area, but because he's closer in proximity to a couple of bigger comic shops, I guess he felt he had to be competitive as long as he could, but there's only so far you can go. Like you said, at the end of the day, it is business. He's still got bills to pay. He's still got rent to pay. He's still got to make a living at it, you know, as meager as it might be. I think he probably does okay, but he's probably one of the least successful shops in town. Just because of there's too many other comic shops in town. That's the problem. Unlike people like Travis, where there's none, here we've got a lot. So it's a small town with a lot of comic shops, lots of competition. So
right, and it's not an easy business in the first place.
No, I can't imagine it would be.
When you're dealing with exchange rates and everything on top of that, the math must be tricky.
Yeah. Yeah, in a really specialized market. He's the same guy is also branched into, he carries some board games now and stuff. He has a lot of back issues, and then graphic novels. His graphic novel section has gotten enormous, so he's trying to branch out a little bit to bring in other people or at least be able to sell other items other than just comics. So, yeah.
The place where I've been buying, the new place I found with bins that I've been rifling through, they clearly way over order comics, and then they end up with a huge amount in their cheap bins eventually, but they also, on their regular racks, have like stacks and stacks behind the current comic of old comics they haven't sold. They way over order, I think. But I mean, that's great for me because I could find all kinds of things there.
Yeah.
But I felt sorry for them. But I think their main business might be their gaming. Maybe they make more money off their gaming. But you still wonder if they're going to go out of business if they don't order correctly because they have to pay for all those comics they don't sell.
Yeah, and I wonder if there's an incentive as far as if you hit, say you order, I don't know what the numbers would be, say you order 50 of one title, I wonder if there's an incentive, like it'll be cheaper to order 75 than order 50, which is why maybe they over-ordered. Do you think there's something like that in place?
Well, there's a couple things. Sometimes there's incentives on individual comics, like something, if Marvel really wants to push Spider-Man #1, they'll make a special incentive on it. And if you order more, you do get a discount. I don't know if there are regularly those kind of discounts, but then there's also the variant cover incentives.
Yeah.
So that, I think a lot of times in those cheap bins, it's because you can thank variant covers for all the recent comics in the cheap bins because they they ordered an extra 20 comics so they could get up to the level where they could get the variant comic they could sell for $50.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they just assumed they would sell a bunch of stuff in their cheap bins later, I guess. So I don't fully understand all that. And I was talking, Joshua Hayes, who I was talking to last night, Bat Josh, he works a little bit at a comic book store, and he was saying, I think off the air, saying that he rips off a lot of covers, that every week they have about 14 or 15 comics that are returnable.
Oh.
And so they way over order on those, I guess, and then just return them by ripping off the covers, which is really depressing.
It's unfortunate. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But anyway, well, back to the what else have you read recently that you wanted to pull out?
I don't know. Maybe, I don't know if you read this one. I picked up the Secret Love issue, the Secret Wars.
I'm looking forward to reading that when it comes out digitally, but no, I haven't read it yet.
The only reason that I did it, and the only reason I show you, is because the guy who does that, Copra, he does Daredevil story in here, which is amazing. The rest of them are, the rest of them are kind of whatever.
Just filler or something.
That's the only reason I bought it, is just for that one story, and I'm really glad I did. It's incredible. And I guess my next question to you, maybe you know more about this. I had heard that he's now working at Marvel, where he's going to be doing more stuff, or is that just an awful rumor that I've heard? Or
he has already been working at Marvel. He was doing the last, before Secret Wars, the last run of the Ultimates.
Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't know that.
And no one was reading it. And I read the first issue he did, and it didn't seem at all like him. So maybe he was trying to do what they wanted to do and lost the flavor. He was not drawing it either. And I feel like I prefer him when he's doing his own drawing.
Yeah, this one, it looks like
it's a nice sign that they let him at least do a short piece with his own.
Yeah. This one, it looks like he's doing everything. There's nothing listed as far as anybody coloring it. He's doing all the art. He's written it. The only other credit is lettered by VC's Clayton Cowles. So, and I mean, I'm told
that's
already.
Definitely weird coloring style. He likes like flesh color as the background color a lot.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, that was, I think I saw it on his Twitter feed, actually, is where I saw about it, because I would have passed right by this book if I hadn't known that. So. But I'm really glad I picked it up. It's a great little story. I mean, I love Daredevil, period. So that's kind of a double bonus.
Maybe now that you said it's so good, maybe I will grab a physical copy if I see one.
But like I said, everything else in there, nah, not so great. And I think there's 3 stories total in it, something like that. And so, I mean, that's really the only reason to buy it. And it's a $4.99er, actually, which I didn't actually notice. Yeah, it's $4.99 US. So I mean, I guess that's the other side. Do you want to pay $4.99 for one story?
Right. It would be interesting if this is successful and they let him do more of his own drawing, because I think his writing by itself, at least at the moment, isn't going to be that exciting in a Marvel comic. But I don't know. I should read more of the Ultimates that he's done. But and I don't know what he'll be doing in the future. So clearly he has like a contract with them or something.
Yeah, something's going on. It's kind of exciting. That's the thing that we've been noticing, especially with the Secret Wars stuff. We got this Battle World issue. I say we as in Mr. Tom and I. And it has the Silver Surfer Galactus story in it, done by James Stokoe. It just seems that they're at this time where it's a nice event to try out some of these really alternative, maybe some more than others, artists and writers, because they can really take an Elseworlds kind of approach, or like a out of continuity approach, and let them run wild. And I mean, I applaud them for trying out people like this, because I can't imagine that his style is going to appeal to everybody. The other stories in it may be more so, the art in those ones, but his style is definitely unique in the Secret Love here or whatever. So I applaud him for trying. Anyway, we'll see what happens.
I loved that James Stokoe fake Avengers annual that he did. That was like 1,000 years in the future or something.
Yeah.
In fact, I want to get a physical copy of that now, because I read it digitally. But I love Stokoe's artwork.
Yeah, so do we. Mr. Tom loved that issue as well. We have that one as well. And it was a lot of fun. He's got a good take on things. And the Silver Surfer story as well in that battle world is great. It's just a unique kind of angle, and it's still.
Oh, he did a
really
Silver Surfer story? I didn't know about that.
Yeah, in Battle World, I think it's issue number 4. I believe it's what it's in. There's 2 stories in it, and he did the first one, and it's really worth checking out as well. His version of Galactus is pretty fantastic.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for all the Secret Wars Battle World stuff to get onto my Unlimited app, because it sounds like the first sort of fun event in a long time where it sounds like they just let people go wild, just do something crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was the same with the, oh geez, I can't remember now. Was it the Original Sin? They had an Original Sins split off from that kind of event, and that had a similar feel as well, where each issue was a couple of different artists doing little stories, some comical, some serious, some strange. You know, that was always a fun book to read too. I think it was Original Sins.
Yeah, I only heard the general Original Sins event. I only heard kind of meh kind of things about.
We really liked it. We loved the Original Sin, the actual story. I thought it was a pretty interesting concept. Again, it's the thing. I always say it, but it's probably true. I think I enjoy some of those things more because I'm reading them with Mr. Tom. If I had read them on my own, I don't know if I would have been as excited, but his excitement is very contagious, right? So when we read it together, it's always a lot of fun. Well,
and a kid is like a truth meter, not truth, but a truth in fiction. Like a kid won't, if something doesn't work, the kid just won't accept it.
Yeah.
So when they do like it, you know it's genuine. You know, it's not for some other reason, like because I know that Stan Lee did X that I have to like this. It's just they either like it or they don't.
That's true. That's very true.
And one big difference of my daughter's life and my life as a comic book reader is when I was a kid, I would only get one comic book for to last me 2 months or something.
Wow.
She can have an endless supply of comic books between all the digital sources we have and the fact that I get so many. So she can just say no to, okay, I'm bored with this. Let's move on to something else.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I would have just poured through them.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the age-old parents' problem of spoiling your children and everything.
Yeah.
But who am I to say you can only have one bad comic book a month?
Yeah, that's right.
I'm reading all the rest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Speaking sort of James Stokoe, I read Godzilla in Hell issue 2. I'd already read issue 1. I think I told you I liked issue 1.
Yeah, I've read issue 1 as well, and I got issue 2 as well, but just a different cover.
Oh yeah, I got the variant cover for some reason. It appealed to me. But the artist in issue 2 it's fully painted, and he is a science fiction cover painter basically, who they've brought in to do a comic book, and they let him write it himself. Have you read this issue yet?
I did. I read it last night.
I like the Stokoe issue a lot better.
Oh, really?
I still enjoyed this, but
yeah. Interesting. I really like the Stokoe issue, but I really, really like this issue, and I think I liked it. I thought the art was absolutely incredible. I thought it was beautiful art. I'm very excited about this series just for that same reason we've just been talking about. It's just going to be a different creator each time.
Yeah. It's definitely an art series so far. I mean, you get it for the art, not really for the story, because the story is just Godzilla moving through hell so far.
Exactly. Well, and I mean, if you think about it, any Godzilla book it's just going to be Godzilla fighting another monster. So there's not always going to be much story. Maybe the human factor a little bit, but I think it's great because it fully embraces that exact thing. This is Godzilla in hell fighting these monsters, falling to different levels.
Right. Well, somehow the Stokoe one for me had like a psychology of Godzilla going on. I thought that I felt that this was merely paintings of monsters fighting and a little bit of text to give a reason why he's moved on to the next monster or something.
Yeah.
But I still enjoyed it a lot.
For sure,
what I think most about this series is I know I'm going to, if they put out an oversized hardback, that's what I really want. I want these even bigger pages. So I'll have to buy it again.
That King Ghidorah painting there is just fantastic.
Yeah, that alone, I mean, you want that on your wall or something.
It's great stuff. I was really impressed with it. I hadn't heard the name before, that this Eggleton.
So if you were an insidery kind of person on science fiction, you would see every year that he's nominated for artist awards, you know, for cover art and stuff. So he's a leading science fiction, you know, painter.
Awesome. That's incredible.
So it's kind of amazing they got him, that he had time and they got him to do a comic book, maybe just because he wanted to do it, or maybe they paid him a lot of money. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that double page spread is amazing too.
It's so great, hey? Yeah.
Yeah. I have no idea who the next artist will be.
Yeah, I'm not sure. They always give that little sample, but I can't always recognize some of them.
There's even a signature, Moody.
Yeah.
But I don't know of a Moody.
No, me neither.
More Stocco-like one picture. Yeah, anyway, this is another one where I totally breaks down my not wanting to pay the $4 price.
Yeah. That's worth it though, I think.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, $3.99, yeah. It's funny, I don't notice that as much anymore. I just look at what I like and I just get it, you know. So
yeah.
Maybe that's an issue. I don't know.
No, it's my issue to worry about money, I think there's a certain, I'm not OCD like most collectors, like I don't keep my comics well organized and stuff, but I always like to see how many pages I like the numbers about things for some reason. Well, speaking of $2.99, that was a waste of money.
Oh no.
Remember we were talking about Graphic India? Were we talking about Graphic India?
Yes, we were. Yeah.
So the latest Graphic India comic is called Black Tiger. And it's obviously a kind of standard, you know, Marvel's 80s superhero looking guy.
Yeah.
And it's written by Chuck Dixon and drawn by Graham Nolan. And I just recently read by the same team, Joe Frankenstein, and I love that. So I thought, well, this will just be a good, solid 80s style superhero comic set in India. And it was that, but so boring and uninteresting. I just ended up just looking at the pictures and not reading.
Oh no, that's too bad.
It was so generic.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm kind of disappointed. I want Graphic India to do something interesting and have me buying some comics about India or of set in India, but I guess it's not going to happen.
It's just a name, maybe.
Right. 18 Days was, you know, the next issue of 18 Days by Grant Morrison was no mention of Grant Morrison writing it at all anymore. And it was just there. It was a lot better than the Black Tiger. I'll probably keep getting it for a few more issues.
That's a great cover on that.
It is. I think this was the variant cover. Yeah, it is a cool cover.
So I'm a bit confused about it because I was in the comic shop when I went to Galaxy. I went upstairs to dig through the graphic novel bins, and I saw a hardcover that said Grant Morrison's 18 Days. And it looked like a collection, and I didn't actually look through it. I just saw it, and as I was kind of digging through and wrangling the children. So is this something that we talked about it before? Is it something that he did before that now they're using his name to do something else? Or
I think that's what it is. So what it is, the book that you see, I think came out about a year ago, and it's a big, lavish color book about a movie they were planning, which with treatments by Grant Morrison and art by whoever did the art. So it's one of those. You know how often they'll have the art of, and they'll show you all the storyboards and stuff. It's kind of like that, but of a movie that they never made.
I see.
And since it was by Grant Morrison, they figured they could sell it. And then, yeah, so I have a feeling when they say Grant Morrison's 18 Days, it's based totally on that movie treatment or something. And that he may have had nothing to do with the script.
Okay.
And the script is by two of the people who are also listed as founders of Graphic India.
Oh, yeah.
And this last two issues, the art was by what sounded like it had an Indian sounding name, and now it's an Italian sounding name, Francisco Biagini. So, yeah, I just don't know the province of the whether even the people who are of Indian descent live in India who are writing these, or are, you know, Indians living in Canada or America, or its publishing address is in Singapore.
Uh-huh.
So who knows? I mean, what this is.
It's hodgepodge. So did you read this one then?
Yes, I did. I did. And I loved most of the art, or almost all of the art.
Yeah. So what was the art that you didn't like?
I think there was a little bit about the faces that was a little bit too much like animation art, and it jarred me a little bit compared to the rest of the art style, which it wasn't horrible or anything. I certainly would buy anything drawn by this guy that I stumbled across.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't, for me, it just felt a little jarring at times when it seemed more like a cartoon all of a sudden.
Yeah. What did you think?
And I didn't enjoy this as much as the first two issues. What did you?
Yeah, no, me neither. No, I didn't enjoy it as much either. And I found it drove me crazy, the whole turning upside down part of it.
Uh-huh.
I read it kind of like I would read the text, then turn it upside down and follow the panels like in a manga or something from the bottom right all the way to the upper left.
But when you turn it right side up, which panels do you read first?
I went from the bottom right all the way to
down
the left.
Here and then up this way. Yeah, because that's the way you would have read it when it was right side up, but the pictures were upside down.
Yeah.
But each time I got confused then which way to go. And yeah, so it was an interesting experiment. I love the colors in these pictures.
Yeah,
but the story didn't hook into me the way the first two issues did.
No, me neither. I mean, you sent that good link to me on Twitter about how they're publishing it. And I think that was really good to read to get a bit of a concept of what's going to happen. And I kind of like that idea, to be honest. Excuse me, sorry. I like that idea, to be honest, giving them some time and making sure, and just the idea of these all based in the same world is interesting, and we'll see how they tie in. I like the whole concept for the series. I think will be fun, but you're right. This didn't catch me nearly as much. If this was the first issue, I probably wouldn't go back for a second or third issue. They started out the right way. Those first two were a lot of fun.
But if you hadn't read that, if a person hadn't read anything about this, they'd read the first two issues and then read this, they'd have no idea what the intentions are. Do you take it that this is on the same planet or in another planet that's somehow connected?
I take it as maybe it's more in the same universe, maybe not necessarily the same planet, but maybe. I mean, and again, it's hard to tell just with the one issue, but you're right. If I hadn't known that information, I would think that, oh, this is maybe an earlier series or a later series that's called 8 House, and I've now missed the boat, and there would be confusion. It should kind of state it inside. It would be nice to get kind of a rundown. They probably don't care, but I mean, just for future confusion.
Even if on the back cover they put a little schedule, like so that you could see Kayem is going to continue in issue 7 or whatever, so that you'll get the sense that it's a series of rotating stories that all continue.
Yeah.
I still feel very excited about this whole project, and I want to see what the next artist is going to be like. And I guess one of the 4 rotating stories doesn't have Brendan Graham involved at all.
Yeah. I've been seeing some kind of art for future issues, because there's art he has everything ready for, I think, the first 7 issues or something like that. It's similar for Island. I think it's pretty much ready for a few issues. And there's one coming up. I can't remember if it was just a one-off or not. And there was some samples of art on there that looked pretty fantastic. So it's still a really exciting series. I'm hooked. I'm not going anywhere for sure. So
yeah. But I do hope to see the connections a little bit as time goes on.
Yeah.
Were we given any hint in any of the 3 issues what the word 8 House means?
No, nothing. I think I thought in the first one, maybe I'm wrong though. I don't know. I thought in the first one was kind of like the first 2 was that kind of family was the 8 House or whatever, where the royalty, the family that the royalty came from. I thought that that's what it was, but I don't know now if that was something specifically said in those issues or not. Right.
It seems now like the subtitle will be the name of the character of each story. So Arclight, there was a character they called Arc, so her full name or his full name must have been Arclight.
That's right.
I think it was her.
Yeah, I think so. That's right. Yeah.
I kind of, now that it didn't have Marilyn Churchland art, even though I love this art, I want more Marilyn Churchland. And I see that she has another image series coming up sometime in the future. I can't remember the title of it now.
I'll have to search for that. Yeah.
But it's I'll tweet about it when I find out the title.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No, that was a name to watch out for sure.
We actually have 6 viewers, but I don't see comments, and I don't know if that's because I'm just not getting to them right. But hello, everyone out there watching. Thanks for joining us.
Are you onto this book at all? This Dark Corridor?
No, I let it slip by, and now I'm wondering if I will really want to go search it out. What do you think?
I like the first one quite a bit. This one was okay. I think this is kind of suffering from a similar thing, which is why I kind of bring it up, that I don't quite see how they're all linking yet. So I'm trying to put it into, because of the first issue, there was a couple of different stories in it. I kind of put it in my head as like, okay, well, it's just a collection of short crime stories. But if that was the case, the endings of them weren't really satisfying. So I tried to keep that in mind for this one, and I read the first story, and okay, well, kind of unsatisfying. And then the second story, and it kind of tied into a story from the first issue. So now I'm not really sure what to take of it. Is it going to be short stories in each issue that they all kind of coexist, or is it supposed to be kind of like a Twilight Zone type of thing for noir fiction or something? I can't quite put my finger on it. I do like his art. This cover isn't nearly as striking as the cover for the first one. Cover for the first issue was really just jumped out at you. This one is still good, but his art style is pretty
extreme stuff happening inside of it.
Sorry, say that again.
Inside these issues, is there something extreme going on in it? Some people made some kind of reference to pushing the boundaries.
Yeah, I mean, this one was a little more extreme than the first one. There's, some nudity, there's some graphic violence in it and stuff. And at the end, he talks about, in a little article, in a little letter, saying how he's rediscovered his love for more kind of violent 80s cinema, and how when he watches it now, he kind of finds himself laughing at the most violent parts because of the way it's presented in those style of movies. It's not to be taken super seriously. So I think maybe that's kind of where his tastes lie, but it hasn't translated directly into this, because this doesn't seem like these action cinema pieces he's talking about. This seems like a kind of darker noir crime story book so far, but we'll see what happens. I'm interested.
I'm trying to think of 80s films. All I can think of in terms of violence is horror movies. Is that?
Yeah, he mentioned things like Commando and that sort of thing.
Right.
Those kind of stories, the Terminator 2, that sort of thing. But
so more kind of cartoony violence compared to a noir kind of violence.
Yeah, Commando, Scarface, Terminator, Escape from New York, Total Recall, Big Trouble in Little China, et cetera, stuff like that. Rocky, Goodfellas, all that kind of thing. And the thing that piqued his interest again in that type of cinema was Machete, the movie that Robert Rodriguez did. It's kind of a take on like a 70s exploitation film.
Right. I remember the Machete fake trailer, and then they apparently made a real movie out of it, which
they've made a couple, I think now. I think they have 2 out now at this point.
And that's closer to more, in my mind, that's closer to a lot of the really cheap horror movies that I remember from the 80s.
Mm-hmm. Where it's really graphic. Yeah. Yeah, and this doesn't seem like it. But I mean, again, it was Dr. Monkeybot who kind of piqued my interest in the first one, and it was because of the cover. I don't know. I'm on the fence about it a little bit. I'm going to give it another chance to see. I'm enjoying it enough, but I'm not loving it. I don't read it and go, holy crap, I want the next issue. Like something like 8 House, for example. I'm excited when the next issue comes out, So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Well, then that sounds more like something that I would get when there's a digital sale, or I find it in a cheap bin just out of curiosity, maybe.
Yeah. Or a cheap trade or something. Yeah.
So, and it sounds, well, I kind of like the idea of something that's like a tapestry of vignettes, if that's what it actually turns out to be.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe I've missed something. Maybe it would be worth going back and reading them both together. Even though there wasn't a long, it doesn't feel like there was a long time between the two issues, but I guess it has been a few weeks. Pardon me, sorry. So maybe it's worth it sitting down and reading them both again to see if I can find more links with the stories. I don't know. So,
right.
Anything else that you've read?
Oh, there's lots.
Oh, is there lots? Okay, yeah.
Have
all
you
right.
been following Injection? I think this might be a variant cover. I'm not sure.
No, I don't know that one.
This is it's a Warren Ellis book with art by Declan Shalvey.
Okay.
This is issue. It is cover B, but I can't see the issue number. I think we're on about issue 4 or 5. I think it's issue 4. And the first 2 issues I couldn't figure out what was going on, and then issue 3 was pretty exciting, and I kind of was clicking with me, but now I'm back to being confused again. Mm-hmm. The art's nice, but it's not one of those books that's on the level where the art alone will carry me. Yeah. So I'm not. I have a certain amount of faith in Warren Ellis, but it is wearing away my faith in him that mm-hmm. there's really much interesting going on here.
Yeah.
I'm also reading Trees by him, which I'm liking a lot more.
Uh-huh.
And that has more exciting art to me also, but it also has a more interesting story, even though it's a story that takes a lot of patience. Mm-hmm. Have you tried Trees either?
I haven't. No, I've seen it though. I've leafed through it a few times.
It's definitely at this point makes sense to just wait for the trades on Trees, because there's no way you can jump in the middle of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Another one that my interest is flagging on a bit is They're Not Like Us.
Yeah, I tried the first issue of that one,
which I always liked on kind of a low-key level. Mm-hmm. Like shallowly, if it was a $4 book, I probably wouldn't have stuck with it as far as I have. Mm-hmm. The art's, appealing, but this issue was literally just the characters talking to each other all issue long.
Okay.
And I just didn't care about what they were talking about after a while.
Yeah, yeah.
I almost had to push myself through it to read to the end.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know why I feel reluctant to take this off my pull list, but I think that's going to happen soon.
Yeah, I think that was the thing with me. I picked it up because I really liked the art, and then the story, it just didn't grab me as much, so it just went off my radar immediately when the second issue came out. But I don't remember disliking the first issue. It just didn't catch me, I think. But the art is really cool, though.
And you're not doing a pull list right now, so you kind of have more flexibility to just make up your mind what you want when you want it.
Totally, yeah. I can make up my mind week to week, so I'm not committed to, if I don't want something, I have to get the next 2 issues or something because they pre-ordered it. I can just stop and start as much as I want, which is kind of a good place to be. Although I do feel like I'm missing out on some things because I don't have a pull list. We just discovered that it was an earlier issue of, I think it was issue 10 of the new Silver Surfer series that we had missed. And I don't know how we missed it. I found it just the other day, but it's one of those things. It wouldn't escape us if we had a pull list. But then I'm committed to books every week. So.
Yeah. Well, for me, the pull list is both because some things sell out, and if I don't have it on the pull list, I don't get it.
Yeah.
And the other thing is it gives me a discount at the shop that on everything they have there, I get 20% off because but on the other hand, when I tell them to stop a book, sometimes they stop it, sometimes they forget to, and then you feel bad telling them you don't want to buy it.
Yeah, yeah.
Set it aside for you, and so there's a certain inertia once you put it on your pull list.
Yeah, you're committed. You're stuck. Did you read? Are you still up with Silver Surfer? Speaking of which,
well, because I get those as a mail subscription from Marvel, and then I read them with my daughter, and she destroys each issue. But so we haven't got the most recent issue that has the spirals on the cover. I think we'll be getting that later this week.
Yeah, we just read that last night, and it was really, really good. I'm excited about it. I just wonder how much. Yeah, I mean, without saying anything from the issue, the whole concept in the back of my mind about, this collapse of the 2 universes in Marvel, and now in Silver Surfer, he's creating a universe. I love that idea, and I'm interested to see where it goes. just the idea of him creating the new Marvel universe going to exist is a pretty exciting idea, you know.
That is pretty exciting. It's like Silver Surfer's becoming God.
Exactly, yeah. And then they kind of touch on some of those things in this issue, and they do it very well. And it's just, it's one of the Marvel books that another one we just really look forward to.
Yeah.
I don't think it's let us down yet, yeah.
And that one can stimulate me as a 54-year-old and my daughter as a 7-year-old is amazing.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, it's quite an accomplishment. I feel the exact same way, yeah.
And it just, I liked it from the beginning, but it's just gotten so rich feeling. The two characters just work so well together. Completely. I have a terrible feeling that it may be coming to an end soon.
Yeah, I mean, he won't admit it, though, on Twitter. I follow him already on Twitter, and he won't say it. He'll just kind of hint that there's things coming, so, but he won't say.
But he's got a new Vertigo book coming up, I think. Or
oh, really? Hey, okay.
Or Image book. So that I just assume he can only do one book.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe it's just a short book, and maybe there'll just be a break from Silver Surfer.
Yeah, yeah.
Because, yeah, that's a book that at the moment I just wish will just go on and on and on.
Yeah, same.
And definitely someday if there's an oversized hardback, I'll probably double dip on that.
Yeah, that's been your big thing lately, hey? The oversized, anything
oversized hardbacks. I love that.
Well, it's a good way to read it.
Yeah. Well, particularly if you really like the art, it just, I don't know. It's very satisfying for me.
Did you, one thing I was thinking about you the other day, did you get the new Heavy Metal issue?
No, I didn't even see it.
They had a Kirby thing in it. I remember I sent you the link. I think I sent you the link before they were selling those posters. I guess.
Right. I remember the posters for like $300 or something.
Exactly. And I think in this new Heavy Metal, they talk about those posters and have the pictures of them in the magazine, but I didn't see it. The one place I know used to have it, I haven't gone into for years. It's just a Dominion News. That's what it's called. And they didn't have it. And he said that they don't print them anymore. They're all digital, but I don't know if that's true. I'm pretty sure they still print them. Yeah. So I'd like to look for it.
I've been waiting for that Kirby issue. So every time I see a Heavy Metal at my comic book shop, I look at it and then it's like, oh, this looks like standard Heavy Metal. And I just put it back.
And apparently it's Kirby art on the front cover too. So
right.
So it's hard to
recognize it.
Yeah. But I plan
to jump on Heavy Metal at some point here. I'm curious about Grant Morrison editing it too. And
yeah, same.
I do want to like Heavy Metal. It's just when a year or two ago when I tried it, I did not like it.
Yeah, I'm going to have a look. There's another place in town that carries them. I'm going to have a look maybe sometime this week, see if I can find that one issue just to give it a shot. I think the rest of it is another story by somebody, but I think it's a small chunk of Kirby, but it'll probably be worth it just for that info, and they'll look at that art because those posters look incredible.
Well, it'll be a good excuse to try Heavy Metal again too, and get some Kirby at the same time.
Yeah, totally.
So I was just trying to see if I could see if there's any comments.
Yeah.
Sean Riez is watching. So hi, Sean. Howler Mouse is watching. He's listening to us in the shower. Okay, I have a whole new different feeling.
Creepy.
I'm picturing us talking and some stripper music playing at the same time. He also says, my good buddy Warren Ellis, insert eye roll.
So he's not a fan, I take it.
Well, I'm pretty sure he likes Planetary and stuff. I think he just maybe rolls his eyes that Warren Ellis isn't consistent, or I don't know. Because Warren Ellis certainly is not consistent and has put out a lot of bad comics. And it seemed like or not bad comics, but a lot of less exciting comics. It seemed like he was getting back on a roll lately. Yeah, so we still shows me that we have 6 viewers.
Well, there you go.
And now I'm trying to get Howler Mouse in the shower out of my head. Luckily, in my head, there's lots of foamy soap in all the right spots.
And steamy. It's all steamy in there.
And he has one of those bathing caps on.
Oh, yeah.
Shower caps.
And a loofah sponge, yeah. As long as he doesn't drop the soap in your mental imagery, it's fine.
And then he rips open his stomach and there's a face inside. Have you been following Birthright?
No, I've never seen that one.
You haven't heard of Birthright?
No, I haven't. No.
Oh, it's an image book written by Josh Williamson. It has generally very good art by this guy, Andre Bresson, I think, or something Bresson. Yeah, Andre Bresson. I've never heard of the artist before this, but he's quite a good artist.
Yeah.
And it's a story of a boy who gets sucked into some other world where he's the predicted Messiah hero who will save them from the Dark Lord. And then we flash to a year later and he comes back to our world as this grown-up barbarian looking guy who actually has the Dark Lord inside of him and is so he failed, and he succumbed to the Dark Lord, and now the Dark Lord is having him do things that will allow the Dark Lord to take over our world. And his family, there's all kinds of interesting things with the family. The mother doesn't believe him. So it's true that it really is him, but some members of the family don't believe it and some do. But it's not true that he's still a good guy. Anyway, it's an interesting sort of take on a horror kind of version of a lot of fantasy tropes.
Yeah.
I enjoy that a lot.
It looks pretty good. Holy smokes. Issue 10, is that what that said on there?
Yeah, it's been going for a while.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people on YouTube are enjoying Birthright. It's another one, like a lot of the image books, that would probably read even better in trade. I just don't feel like waiting for it.
Yeah.
But each individual issue is just a slow step forward in the story, even though it's a pretty exciting story.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool. On that same note, speaking of getting them in trades, I saw you got it recently too. You got the big hardcover volume.
I got the big hardcover, yeah. I haven't gotten around to reading it yet.
I just started reading the first issue. I haven't gotten any further than that. But I picked up the first 2 trades because I've heard such good things about it. Every time somebody talks about it, I just hear praise. And they're pretty cheap, so I thought I'd give it a shot.
Right.
Did you ever follow the issues, or I can't remember what you said?
I read the first 2 issues and it was okay, but I didn't quite get into it. And then I just heard people saying that after 3 or 4 issues, it really started to click and get exciting.
Yeah.
So
the art is pretty fantastic in it. I really like the style. And there's something they do with it's my constant battle with I don't understand digital coloring. Let me just find an example. Sorry, give me one sec. With the flashbacks, there seems to be this softness over the image. I can't quite put my finger on it, how to explain it, but to compare it to, like, if you look at the modern, if this is kind of the modern part of the story, when they go to the flashbacks, the image seems to have almost this, I don't know, I guess soft look is the best way to describe it. There's something different about that coloring, and I really, really love that quite a bit. All of those colors there are pretty mind-blowing. Again, I just wish I knew more. I wish I understood more of digital coloring, which seems to be a common occurrence with me. I understand the basics, but I guess it's like anything else. It's how you use the medium to color the books and things is where you get your individual style.
Well, one of the tricks they use that it took me a while, this might be obvious, but it took me a while to realize, is the colorist can take the lines that the artist drew and change the color of the black lines.
Okay, yeah.
Like sometimes they'll fade them back into kind of a lighter gray, or like here in this, They're Not Like Us, they've taken the lines in the hair and they've just made them colors that could be part of the hair and aren't black lines at all.
Yeah.
So I think part of what they're doing and what you were showing is they're taking the actual line work and changing the color of that so that it blends more with the rest of the coloring.
So it's not a deep black.
That's like a drawing.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, that would make sense for sure. It would definitely make sense. It's an interesting book so far. I mean, just leafing through the 2 issues, or the 2 volumes rather, I don't know, it looks like it gets good and crazy, which I would expect from a Hickman story, you know.
Right.
I would expect some violence, and I would expect something pretty epic.
Yeah, I don't always love Hickman, but I certainly wouldn't feel like I'm wasting my time reading anything by Hickman.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do love it.
So the volume you have, it collects the first 15 issues, is that what you said, or 12?
Yes, the first 15 issues. So I assume that's about 3 trades worth.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's oversized, but I don't know where I put it right now.
Mm-hmm.
As I've indicated elsewhere, I have so many trades to read.
Yeah.
But then I keep, you know, mostly spending my time on picking up new comics. So
yeah.
You did not get Plutona, or you did?
No, I didn't. I saw it though, and I saw it because I noticed it because of Jeff Lemire's name.
Yeah. At this point, I would say definitely wait to see what everyone says when the series ends, and either get the trade or not. The first, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's perfectly entertaining, but it feels like it's about a group of kids, right? And all the kids feel like they've stepped right out of a movie or a TV show. Mm-hmm. They're types that you're used to before. The bully whose father beats him up, okay, and the fat kid who wants the other people to like him, so let's like her, actually, in this case, so lets people push her around too much. Mm-hmm. The little brother who the sister's supposed to take care of, but is not always paying close attention to. Mm-hmm. So the most interesting thing I thought was the 3-page Jeff Lemire. So they find the dead body of the superhero. Okay. And that's all drawn by Emmy Lennox, who's a perfectly good artist. But there's a 3-page comic book about that superhero at the end, drawn by Lemire.
Yeah.
And it's just a fun take on a superhero as kind of a sad sack. Mm-hmm. A single mother trying to be a superhero and work double shifts at the diner and stuff. So I kind of that was the only twist in it that I liked.
So was that the first issue?
That's the first issue, and they never say, but I've heard people say that this is a 4-issue mini series.
Okay,
which is why I say just kind of wait and see what everyone says by the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then probably be able to pick it up for cheap.
Yeah. Things change a lot once you find things in a 50-cent bin. Then they're like treasure, and they're older. And
it's true, but it's amazing how much you find that, like you were saying, from people overbuying, that all of a sudden they're sitting, well, we've got 19 issues of this one, so we got to get rid of them somehow. And next thing you know, you're finding the stuff that's only a year old or 2 years old at the most, right, you know, for dirt cheap. Yeah, it's a bit of a gamble though, because you can't find everything, obviously.
Yeah, you can't expect everything to be there. You just have to accept what is there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Another thing that what else do you want to pull out?
No, go ahead. If you have something to say, go for it.
Just talking about cheap bins, I've been reading quite a bit of John Byrne's Action and Superman, because
nice.
The cheap bins a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get them all. I think I'm only missing a few issues, and I've accidentally got some doubles, which I'm going to send to some people who are interested. Mm-hmm. But it feels like treasure to me, because my excitement about John Byrne comes back, you know, from a young reader.
And that's a title I even see a lot of in these bins, that Action Comics from that era.
And the art is marvelous. And I think I remember it being a huge breath of fresh air on Superman, but the writing it's not bad, but it's cumbersome, and I think there was a feeling, you know, going back to the Stan Lee era and probably earlier, that the writer had to put a lot of caption boxes in.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But Stan Lee kind of made it all kind of a joke, right? He kind of wrote all these jokey caption boxes just to fill up the space. Whereas John Byrne takes it so seriously, and he feels like he has to put stuff about what's going on in every panel, even though even though it's a pretty basic plot and there's not a lot of interesting stuff to say. Mm-hmm. So it gets hard to really read it, and I should just read the pictures and some of the dialogue.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm still enjoying it a lot.
Yeah.
So I plan to dig more into more Superman from that era.
Mm-hmm. So, and that's one that you said recently you found a lot of?
I often find a lot of the John Byrne Superman era. So probably it sold huge at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, collectors aren't interested in it anymore. So it hits the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah.
Just because they got so many copies of them lying around.
Nice. The only one that I was going to mention again from the new, this is kind of the last new pile. Well, actually, no, there's two from the new pile. It was also on the Hickman. I don't know if you're into this one at all. Have you read This Dead and the Dying?
I haven't tried it, and just from some descriptions of it, I just thought I'd wait on it and see what other people thought.
It's probably a good wait. Yeah, it's probably a good wait. In this one, they kind of spill it at the end. He has a little write-up because the schedule has been really off. I really like it. I really like this issue as well. Violent, strange. You know, it's almost like not as extremely strange as like Manhattan Projects, where taking real life people and putting them in these odd situations, but it kind of touches on that a little bit. But at the end, he was saying that the next issue is not going to come out until 2016. They had this idea. The first issue was like 60 pages or something. He said, in hindsight, that was maybe a bad idea. We should have kind of scheduled ourselves a little bit. We shot ourselves in the foot. But starting next year, it'll be more on a regular schedule. So this will be it for the rest of the year. I don't know. It's piqued my interest enough, especially with this issue. We've kind of heard a little bit more. It's been explained a little bit more. And now there's another level of the book opening up. In this one, like Mussolini and Hitler are involved in this part of the story, and, you know, kind of opens it up a bit. I think it's great. And it's also similar art-wise to East versus West, or East and West. East of West, rather. There's some really white-faced people in it. The coloring is very similar, and I actually didn't look to see if it's the same colors. There's only listed as this Hickman and Bodenheim isn't on the other one there. So, but the coloring they seem to kind of mix together a little bit. But but I like it.
I kind of had a chuckle when I first saw the title of it, because he already has a book about death, right?
Yeah.
Now he's doing a book called The Dying and the Dead.
Yeah.
How much death does he want to write about?
Yeah, it's true.
But I'm sure that's one I will eventually read in trade or pick up in back issue bins. But I think I now think of Hickman as a wait for trade person for me.
Yeah. And it's probably not a bad idea, you know, get a full kind of taste. It's hard to keep up sometimes. It's just like the Manhattan Projects, I was keeping up, and then it kind of fell to the wayside. And now I see that there's something else. Like, I don't know if it's a second series or what it is exactly. I've kind of lost touch with it. So I almost feel a bit lost at this point, where maybe I just pick up trades from this point on, you know, to catch.
Yeah, I think there's a second series, and maybe it takes place in outer space entirely. Something I'm not sure, because I am way behind. Also, I get trades, but I've let that get low in my pile of to be read. Yeah, you just can't buy everything.
But then even beyond that, just keeping up with things then becomes the deal, right? So yeah. And then hopefully the stories go all the way. Maybe they get canceled, so then you don't get the full story anyway. You feel almost like on this treadmill of just trying to keep up with these books that might end up getting canceled for all you know, so.
Yeah. Grown-up comic book fan problems.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're getting the endless stories we kind of imagined would be so cool when we were kids. And we can afford to buy a lot of them, but we can't read them all.
Yeah, exactly. It's true.
Yeah, I think for my retirement, I'm just going to live in the Walmart parking lot, surrounded by long boxes of comics, and and I'll walk over and be a greeter during the day and read comics.
That sounds pretty good. Except you'll have no health plan.
Yeah, well, that's a given. Since you won't let me into Canada.
Yeah, that's right. The only other last one that I read is the new Surface Tension came out, number 4.
Oh, damn! You told me about that, and
yeah, and I think there's only
to look for it. Although I probably, if I saw it somewhere, it would have popped out at me, and I would have grabbed it.
I think there's only one more as well. So again, same thing. Maybe you're better off just waiting till it's wrapped up and getting a collection. Because by the end of it, it looks like he's saying it's going to wrap itself up in the conclusion. And this one was my least favorite of the 4 so far. It was still good, but I think the thing that I liked about it up to this point, the first 3 issues, was how they left things kind of up to you, and there was no reason why these people walked into the ocean. I don't know if you remember from the previous talk we had. Now it's kind of explaining the stuff, and it's not hard to digest. I can understand it. It's maybe just a little bit of a letdown as far as where it's going. We'll see how it all wraps up, but yeah, I wasn't as crazy about this issue as I was the previous 3. It was still really good, and I still really like the art, but I'd say it's on the lower end of the scale for me so far. But if there's only one more issue or 2 more issues, I think there's only one more. Wouldn't make sense, though, a 5-issue miniseries. I follow it through and see what happens, but he's a creator. I'd like to see him do more stuff for sure. This is a pretty damn good start for his first take on a comic book series, a miniseries.
What was the publisher on that one?
That was that Titan Comics, that UK publisher. Yeah.
So I think those trades do eventually come out. Still not sure about Black Mask trades.
Black Mask, yeah. They're doing one for that Space Riders, hey? That Space Riders is going to get a trade right away.
Is it?
Yeah, I think in October.
I've seen mentions of Black Mask trades coming up, but when I look for Black Mask trades, the only one that I can find available is the Occupy one.
Okay.
They did anthology comics about the Occupy movement.
That's right, yeah.
Which I'm less interested in reading, but Howler Mouse says he loves the John Byrne era of Superman. Byrne was a workhorse on those books, which is true. I mean, he was writing and drawing at least 2 books a month, maybe writing a 3rd one also. I tried to count the books he plotted, wrote, drew in the 2 years he was at DC. Just the Superman books has to be between 84 to 94 books in one fashion or the other. Yeah, I mean, John Byrne was trying to carry on the Jack Kirby tradition of what a working comic book artist should be.
Yeah, pumping them out, yeah.
Gore Vidal just got home from the swimming pool. So he feels, since he's been water-based too, like Howler Mouse, we need to have him in. And it looks like Ed and Nick is watching. He says he wouldn't be able to hear anything in his shower. I guess Howler Mouse must have really good speakers in his shower.
Yeah. He's got it all hooked up throughout his house, probably.
Just so he can listen to live broadcasts.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, I could go on and on with more new comics I've been reading, but I don't know if I should.
Well, what's been a highlight? Is there any other highlights maybe then?
Well, speaking of old artists like John Byrne, I still get kind of excited by Ragnarok by Walt Simonson.
Yeah, that's a great cover.
Thor fame. So he's doing his own version of Thor rather than a Marvel Comics version of Thor.
Awesome.
It's kind of a walking skeleton without a lower jaw. Let me see if I can find a close-up of his face. But anyway, it feels like Simonson is really in a groove artistically, and the story is pretty good. It kind of lacks a humanizing element, like that Silver Surfer we're reading. It's really nice that he has that human girl with him all the time. And it feels like this future Thor needs something like that. Yeah, that's Thor there up at the top here without a bottom drawer.
Awesome.
That's one of the demons of Sutor. Sutor, I guess, basically won after Ragnarok and rules the universe. So it's a lot of fun. Probably one I would want in an oversized hardback. And I think it's supposed to come out bi-monthly, and I'm not sure if it even does come out quite that frequently.
Yeah, that seems to be the theme. A lot of the great series, they just don't have it's going to be month to month. It's going to be whenever we finish it and put it out. Right. We're going to try all these different ways to get the story out. Which is fine as long as it eventually comes out.
Right, and when it's a one-man show and probably not making a lot of money, like people like Walt Simonson at IDW are probably not pulling in the big bucks.
No, probably not.
So another thing that I bought at a sale that excited me was Savage Tales.
Yeah, yeah.
As a kid, I think I had some of the Savage Tales that had Khazar or Khazar, I never know how to say his name, and Conan in it, but I never got these slightly later issues that were just devoted to Khazar. So it was kind of like grabbing the comics I wished I could have, followed up on when I was 11. But I don't know if they're that good. They're written by Jerry Conway and this one's by John Buscema, so that's good. Buscema and Tony DeZunia. Another one's drawn by someone named Steve Gann, who I have no memory of. Yeah, this one's written by Doug Munch, or however you say his name, and Steve Gann.
Okay, yeah.
But so I haven't read them yet, but I'm kind of expecting them to be kind of generic Conan and Tarzan-ish stories.
Those covers are always so impressive to me. I see those every once in a while too. The covers are always incredible.
Yeah, this is probably early Boris, Boris Vallejo, who became a big sort of barbarian cheesecake artist or something.
So great. Yeah, it's so fantastic.
It's amazing how much work he must have put into it for a small amount of money at the time.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
It paid off for him in the long run.
Yeah.
Quality. I'm curious, is that piece of artwork I think you're right, behind you, is that by you?
This one?
Yeah.
No, this one is by some Montreal Serapop. I had to put something up on the walls. After the last couple times I've been down here, it feels like I'm in some bunker. So today I put something up. So there's this Montreal-based artists, and they have a band called AIDS Wolf, and they do a lot of their own art and gig posters. So this is for a show from a band called Comets on Fire that I love. So when they were here years and years and years and years ago, I bought a few posters from them because it was so incredible. And then that one is one that a friend of mine gave me from our Gimli Film Festival, the 15th annual Gimli Film Festival that happens in Manitoba. And the poster is just amazing. So just some sort of color behind me instead of a blank wall. Yeah. So any of the bin stuff that besides the action, has there been anything else that's really jumped out at you, like excited to find?
I can't think of what it. This would have been something I would have rolled my eyes at the time it came out, but now I'm excited to have Superman versus Aliens.
Oh yeah.
And it has Kevin Nolan artwork, which is also fun. So yeah, that's the kind of thing that retroactively seems more exciting than,
it did at the time.
I would have just thought it was just sort of a cheap way to sell more comic books, which obviously is what it was.
Yeah.
They're in prestige format, and I found all 4 of them.
Oh, nice.
Their original price was $4.95, and I paid 75 cents.
It's pretty great.
But it's very sobering if you think about comic books as collectibles. I mean, there's just so many of them are not worth very much money.
Exactly, yeah. Which almost makes it tougher, though, like you've mentioned before about the $4.99 cover price. It's like, well, is this going to be worth 50 cents? I guess you just have to kind of not think about recouping your money.
Right. But if you're just not thinking about current comics and just want something to read, why not just pour through the 50-cent bins and find something
totally
good?
Yeah. I was impressed. The one I started reading this last night. Oh, see, go ahead on that one. Go ahead on that one. I have that one as well, that Doctor Strange.
Yeah, I want to read this soon. I haven't yet, but I didn't even know. I got this off of mycomicbookshop.com just because it was like a few dollars, and I wanted to get more Treasury editions. But I was actually pretty psyched when it's a lot of Ditko on the inside.
Yeah. Garrett, Comic Guy Rules, sent me a copy of that, years ago now. It's amazing. I only have 3 Treasury edition books, and that one is a highlight for sure.
This actually looks like maybe Bill Everett too, so I'm guessing. Yep, Bill Everett. I'm pretty proud of myself to recognize Bill Everett artwork.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's got some Gene Colan. Well, you know it pretty well. So I think this might be the next sort of back issue thing I read. But I thought I was picking up. I have the Treasury Edition Jack Kirby, 2001, A Space Odyssey, which I read as a kid, and I don't know what happened to it. Now I don't know what happened to the. There it is. So this I actually paid for on eBay.
Oh yeah.
And good copies of it go on eBay anyway for like 60, 80 bucks.
Oh wow, really?
So, and I just had been really wanting it for a long time, so I saw a copy for 10 bucks and I got it. And it's a bit gnarly, but it's not too bad. And the insides are fine. The cover's a little bit warped or something.
It's hilarious because I have that. That's one of the other ones that I have too. And I think I paid 20 bucks Canadian for it at the time. And it's in pretty good shape. So it's good to know I didn't get ripped off.
So that is one that might be a good investment.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
I generally have the sense that Kirby comics, which were going pretty cheaply, are inching up in value right now. Because I'd been eyeing a lot for a while, and now I notice the prices are going up, and I'm thinking, well, maybe I should just buy them now in case the prices go up even further. Just because I want them, not because they're investments.
No, for sure, yeah.
And there I am maybe developing some OCD quality where I want to own every comic that Kirby did, at least, from the Silver Age on. I
think that's what they just call fanboy. I don't know.
Right. I guess it's great. I'm using the word OCD way too loosely.
Yeah.
But
yeah, no, that one's incredible.
At the time this came out, I was very disappointed because it literally is just an adaptation of the movie. And I wanted some new Kirby creation. It might have been like one of the first things he did when he returned to Marvel. I don't know if I'm remembering that right, but that was my perception of it as a kid. And so I wanted more New Gods and more Mr. Miracle and Commandy. So I was kind of disappointed with this. But now I'm also trying to. Then he did a monthly 2001 series where after the first issue or two, he started just going off in his own crazy directions.
Oh, really? Okay, I didn't know that. I thought they were
collect that.
Oh, yeah.
He created Machine Man as part of 2001, and then they spun off Machine Man into his own thing. For some reason, the Machine Man issue of 2001 is a big key, so it costs way more than all the other issues of 2001.
I didn't realize Machine Man was such a popular character to make it.
Well, I don't think he is. I just think this whole key thing in collecting is just gone over the top.
Yeah, it gets out of control, yeah.
So, I mean, people who probably don't even care about certain comics, if they hear it's a key, then they want to buy it or something, I guess. And I don't know, maybe one reason this is expensive is it may never have been reprinted.
Yeah, see, and it's interesting because you say that the issues were different. I was always under the assumption that this was just the oversized version of those issues or something, but I had no idea there were different things.
No, so yeah, it's unusual. Amongst most of the Marvel Treasury editions just contain reprints. I'm longing to find one of the Thor Treasury editions is of the Mangog starts Ragnarok by pulling the Odin sword out of the scabbard. It's incredible Jack Kirby art, and I really want to get that oversized.
Oh yeah, yeah. And that's something that does exist?
It does exist because I had it as a kid, so I know it.
Okay.
So yeah, that it doubles my Kirby plus oversized comic obsession together.
2 in 1. Do you find lots of the Treasury editions when you go hunting?
No, most of the stores near me don't have very many of them.
Yeah, I rarely see them. It's a very rare thing.
I think for whatever reason, they feel that fans want things that are this size, and they don't go to much effort to have all the oversized kinds of things in the stores. Yeah, so both of these I got through the mail.
Yeah. And just as an aside, I cannot wait. I can't believe how excited I am for the Doctor Strange movie. I really have. I was talking to Larasa about this too. I try to keep my anticipation down, but I'm very excited to see what they do in a movie with him. Hope they don't screw it up too much. We'll see.
Yeah, I've just kind of tuned out these movies.
Yeah.
Like, I still haven't even seen Age of Ultron. I want to see it, but
it's probably that one is probably my least favorite of all the Marvel movies so far. I really just, it didn't work for me. It didn't appeal to me. I'm not a huge Ultron fan, period. So I guess maybe that's partially why. But my son loved it to pieces. He thought it was fantastic, and ultimately that's what matters. I just I didn't dislike every single moment of it. It just wasn't as good as some of the other Marvel movies. I kind of just take them as their own thing. I try not to get too hung up in how they're going to represent the comics. I just assume they're going to be their own thing. It's going to have their own take. We'll see how it goes. But that one wasn't nearly as entertaining as some of the other ones.
Well, unfortunately, I can't really watch anything with my daughter that might have any kind of violence.
Yeah.
Beyond a very cartoony violence. She gets totally up. Like, she opened up a comic book of mine this morning. It was, what was it? It was an old comic book, and I thought it would be safe. But apparently someone stuck a sword through someone.
Oh, geez.
And it came out the other side.
Oh, come on, yeah.
He was really upset by that. Which is interesting, because I know that in the older version of the Comics Code Authority, they didn't allow you showing penetration of a weapon going all the way through. So there's like that famous Daredevil cover where instead of you seeing the sword coming the way through, you see, is it Daredevil or Elektra's costume just sort of coming out like that.
Yeah.
But seeing with my daughter, then I realized, well, the people who made up the Comics Code Authority knew something about children when they, the most sensitive children or the youngest children. And she did say, well, it was kind of a zombie. What comic was that? I don't know now. She did say it was kind of a zombie character. This was a Comics Code Authority book, but it was from the 80s when it had loosened up or something. So anyway, I can't watch the superhero movies with my daughter or my wife, so I have to find time to do it alone. I'm just kind of lazy about that, so I postponed a lot of them.
We have fully integrated my wife into the comic movies. She loves them now, so right on board.
And obviously, you've been reading a lot of the modern comics with your son, so he's used to the standard level of violence that they now use.
It's true, yeah. No, it's unfortunately true, yeah.
I saw that. I remember watching one episode of Mercy's Little Show where she had her son on, who's I think is 5, but there were certain covers she was showing, and he kept trying to push them down because even the covers upset him. So just some kids, I think, in the 5, 6, 7 range are very sensitive to the sight of blood or other things like that. Yeah,
for sure, and as they should be to some degree. I mean, it isn't a pleasant.
And every kid's different. And when you're ready to realize that that's not real and not take it in as a real event, but as a stylized thing.
Yeah,
I think at least that's my take on. It might just be that the kids who like violence just love violence. I don't think that's really it.
So I just wanted to bring. I don't know. I was reading through some of the 50 Cent haul that I had picked up. Have you ever read this series, The Boz Chronicles?
No. And someone was showing that recently. Was it you or someone else?
It might have been somebody else as well, but yeah, this was one of the. I've got the first 6 issues.
It's an epic. It's an epic one that I haven't heard of.
That's right.
I love Epic quite a bit.
Which is what appealed me to it.
I think Oddfellow Thoughts was showing the Boz Chronicles.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
I think it was him.
I read the first one yesterday. Some of the art, well, all the art is pretty incredible. It's that kind of. That's the other thing about going through the 50 Cent bins, getting this older comic, seeing the different style of art, seeing the different style of coloring and how they just kind of handled things. And this was actually really entertaining. although kind of strange, this alien creature crash lands on Earth in like the late 1800s, I think it is, and he befriends this prostitute woman. They open this kind of detective agency, and in this particular issue, it's a scientist who's discovered a way to bring people back to life. So it's this neat kind of mix of aliens and kind of the past mixed with some weird sci-fi, and it was actually a pretty fun read. I'm really excited to see the rest of it.
So would you say it's kind of whimsical?
For sure, a little, for sure. But it also is, I mean, some of the drawings, you know, some of the drawings of his female counterpart there are fantastic as well. So, I mean, it's mixed with some good nudity and things. Mm-hmm. But it's classic looking stuff and really, really entertaining. And it just, again, it's every time the few epic comic series that I have and I read, I find I just really, really like them. It makes me want to hunt down some more, but there's always ones that look a little iffy. I'm never really sure, but every single time I take a chance on something, because this one to me looked a little iffy, but it was, again, a case of that's 50 cents, I'll give it a try. And it turns out to be a fantastic read so far. So maybe it's worth it to just keep digging up these epic comics and going for it.
I would think any epic comic in the bargain bin, and there are lots of them, are worth giving a try.
Yeah.
Because I think Epic started as a way to compete with heavy metal.
Okay.
But maybe then continued on as a way to compete with the other indies that came along in the 80s. Mm-hmm. But it was a place where sort of indie work was being done by people with professional chops and were being given enough money to take time on it and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's kind of funny when sometimes we live in the now and it's like, oh, Image is so hot, and then you can say, well, but Vertigo used to be like that, and before Vertigo, Image, Epic was like that.
Yeah.
And there were a few other things before Epic. Well, obviously heavy metal. But so there's often been something like one of these things that, you know, really lets the independent voices do interesting things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's good that they're still around too. I mean, it's nice to rediscover these things, you know, that I would have missed out on at the time due to me just being too young or just not into it, you know. Sorry, my phone.
Not showing up in all the shops and everything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's lots of Epic that I'm still discovering, and I never even heard of Boz. Mm-hmm. I also would like to hunt down the old Epic Illustrated magazines, which I don't see very often in shops.
No, I come across the heavy metal more than Epic, but that and Creepy, I come across a lot of Creepy, but Epic is something that when I do run into it, I usually end up getting them. I've got a number of issues, but it's not as kind of in abundance as I thought it might be, you know?
Yeah, I would have thought there was a lot of them out there, but I don't know what happened to that.
Yeah. You know, it's nice. I mean, that's kind of the bonus too. It was just a nice discovery, you know. I'm excited now to read the rest of the 5 and then hopefully hunt down the whole series. I don't know how many issues there was. I'll have to do a big search on Epic Comics and, you know, see what else is out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one. And that Moonshadow was the other one that I have a couple of issues on. I think you were telling me that you remember that.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember it being like really out there compared to everything else at the time. And I think it was a painted comic in watercolors or something.
Okay, yeah.
And written in a very poetic style. It had some things in common with Saga in my memory.
Okay, yeah.
But have you read some of the comics? You found some of them?
No, I haven't yet because they were just such random issues. I kept them aside, and I'm going to wait till I get a nice big run from the beginning and then start reading them. I don't always like just kind of diving into the middle. I want to kind of give it a better chance.
Right. And
I feel like that might turn me off.
It probably is one that would make more sense from the beginning if I'm remembering it correctly. Mm-hmm. It's very, how do I want to put it? In a way, it's very 1970s, although I guess it probably came from 1980 or something. But it reflects. It's almost a little bit new agey, I think.
Okay, yeah.
A little post hippie, but still good.
Yeah.
So Ed and Nick 1 and Howler Mouse are talking more in our comments about John Byrne's DC years and how much he pumped out. Howler Mouse says he traded his PlayStation games for some Treasury editions, and he finally got the Kirby 2001 book. And he says his Kirby books that he puts on eBay sell pretty well.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So maybe Kirby is heating up, because it was odd, and I kind of wish I'd bought every Kirby book around.
Mm-hmm.
Kirby, even though, like, if you wanted to buy original art, some of the most expensive original art is Kirby. His comic books weren't selling that for that much money.
Yeah.
But that's all to the good for me.
Yeah. Well, and like we talked about already, the posters being that expensive was kind of mind-boggling. So
yeah, that's
I guess there's people out there. Yeah, it is a bit. I'm curious of the history about them, though.
Yeah. Howler Mouse says Epic Comics seems to be making a resurgence in the last few months. I think he's right. A lot of people talking about them. He says people seem to be rediscovering it, which I think is awesome and shows people are really hungry for quality stuff. Sergeant America says he loved Machine Man in Marvel Zombies. I didn't realize he was in there. And Next Wave Agents of Hate. Even bought some old issues after that. And he says Age of Ultron hits the store in a week or two. Moto Matt, who used to be, it's Moto Matt on Comics, used to be just Matt on Comics over in England. Great guy, is watching, says hi. Carlos Infante in Mexico is watching. Hi, Carlos. Moto Matt says Avengers Age of Ultron was like the Avengers growing up and reaping what they sowed. I assume, since I haven't seen it, that's because Ultron in that is created by Tony Stark instead of by Hank Pym.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Which makes a lot of sense. I mean, Hank Pym is not well known, and Tony Stark is obviously a big creator of AI at this point.
Yeah, he's the guy now. Yeah, I mean, now that they've introduced the Ant-Man movie, and we'll see where that all takes once it all intertwines and things. But yeah.
But is Hank Pym is not the Ant-Man in Ant-Man movie, is he?
It's true. He's not. He's the father figure in it. But I mean, it's still that kind of just introducing that character. We'll see where they take those kind of ideas. But it really seems like Tony Stark's going to take up that mantle of being the tech guy, you know.
Right. While it was kind of clever to make Hank Pym a wife abuser, it kind of took him off the table as a big hero, and then they had to come up with other Ant-Men. But I always liked the idea of this inventor who was married to a rich socialite and stuff. I mean, it's very 60s, but it just
yeah.
I'm sad that can't be explored more. Could picture Michael Hall drawing a cool Ant-Man or something.
So is that how it was with Hank Pym? Because I'm not super familiar, but I was talking to somebody at work. I was working with this woman who actually has a podcast as well, and she was talking about when the Ant-Man movie came out, they read a lot of the comics, the Hank Pym stuff, and she was kind of surprised at like that type of thing where, you know, it's literally him smacking Wasp down out of the air into the ground and things. And she said that kind of took her aback a little bit, that it was brutal in that way. So is that something that was prevalent in those comics? Because I'm not too familiar with it.
So I think it happened in the early 80s or late 70s, maybe Steve Englehart doing it, trying to find something interesting to do with the characters.
Yeah.
And make them more relevant and everything. So before that, they were kind of this lighthearted pair in the early Avengers, as far as I remember. And it seemed like something whose potential was never really realized. So maybe that's why they decided, you know, we've already got other inventor characters and stuff. Let's make him a wife abuser. But and then in the Ultimates, they even have Captain America beating up Hank Pym, and I think he has a thing for Janet Pym But I think it was a fun kind of, you know, Mad Men. Cocktail era jet set kind of couple, you know. She was the wacky rich girl, and he was the straight man to her, who was just busy inventing things all the time. And you know, one minute he's Ant-Man, then he's Giant Man, and then he was the Yellow Jacket. I think maybe I'm trying to remember. I think maybe he developed like 2 personalities, like Yellow Jacket maybe was a different personality.
Oh, really? Hey, okay.
So that sounds interesting, but somehow when he just got kind of labeled as the wife abuser, then who wants to do very many stories about him? And you can't really have them as a happy couple anymore. Why would she stay with him? And
yeah, you can't really escape that. Yeah.
So that kind of pushed him into the background. And they also did weird things like Hawkeye for a while gave up his bow and arrow and became Giant Man, although I think they called him Goliath. So he used Pym's formulas while Hank Pym was retired from the Avengers, off being Ant-Man on his own. But I like the idea of the wacky inventor having adventures.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And probably people like Holler Mouse and Nick know much more about that than I do.
For sure they would, yeah.
So there's probably some better way to look. Yeah, Holler Mouse says, Pym and Janet always reminded me of the Thin Man couple for some reason. That's exactly the kind of thing that I wanted them to remain being. You know, the Thin Man with Powell and, you know, that old comedy series?
Vaguely, very, very vaguely, yeah.
So in that, now I'm forgetting the name of the actor. The male actor was always a drunk, but always solving mysteries, and his wife was this rich, happy-go-lucky socialite, and they just kind of breezed through all these adventures. And he says, I think in the Ultimate, Cap's mom was abused when he was a kid. Not sure, been a while. Yeah, so that might be why Cap beat up Hank Pym. I mean, that was a powerful moment, having one superhero just, you know, let the other one have it for his bad behavior.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was done very well by Brian Hitch and Mark Millar. But it just, sometimes I think when they do something interesting with a character in these serial books, it takes them off the table as an interesting continuing character, because it kind of gives them an end point, their story an end point. Gore Vidal's talking about some good epic books. Paul Gulacy's 6 from Sirius, Blood by DeMatteis and John Bluth. He says Epic Magazine was excellent. It was consistently good. That's where Jim Starlin, Wonderful Dreadstar, got its start. Yeah, Epic was pretty exciting. And I think unlike Heavy Metal, it had more narrative. And so I kind of liked both. But Epic maybe was more grounded. More narrative,
and a book like that 6 from Sirius, I found finally the final issue that I was missing. The art is incredible to look at in a lot of the books that I found. It's really fantastic work. So
yeah. Well, because I think they had ownership over those things, although I don't know. There must be some legal reason why we don't see any of them in collections. Although Dreadstar is clearly owned by Jim Starlin and has moved around from different publisher and is in collections. But yeah, why isn't 6 from Sirius out there in a nice volume?
It'd be awesome, yeah.
Yeah, that's one that I've picked up. I think there's 2 6 from Sirius series.
That's right. Yeah, 2 miniseries. I think they're both 4 issues each.
I've got bits and pieces of each of them that I picked up from 50-cent bins, and I need to see which ones I still need.
It's worth tracking it down. I mean, the story is okay. It's not mind blowing, but it serves well enough to take you through the story. Because, like I said, each page is fantastic, and the covers are fantastic. Really, kind of an old pulp novel type of feeling. You know, really, really great work. I think it's Gulacy, if that's how you pronounce it. Paul
Gulacy. Yeah. Who was a great artist. I think he's still around doing like G.I. Joe type stuff.
Oh, yeah, really?
I don't think has the same oomph that his art used to, but I haven't really checked it out, so I could be wrong. Yeah, now I want to go search through more 50-cent bins, but I've got like hundreds of comics from those searches that I need to sort through.
Yeah, I kind of wish I would have got more of those Dark Horse Presents from the bins that I found. But again, I put myself on a limit, and that was it. But I'd like to find some more of those anyway. So, because it turns out some of the little storylines that I have, I'm missing just one issue because of just the gaps that they naturally had in those bins. But I'm sure I'll find them sooner or later.
Was it you who was picking up Cheval Noir?
Yeah, that's right, man.
I really want to find some of those. I haven't seen any of those anywhere.
I see those quite a bit, actually. They're around a fair amount. And all of those are fantastic, no matter where you pick them up. It's really good stuff.
It's interesting, so that all this stuff is up in Canada. I mean, I don't know if you always got all the U.S. comics there, but maybe you did always get them all. I'm
assuming we probably did, yeah. I mean, it just based on, well, who knows? I mean, who knows? It seems based on my back issue hunting. They're around, some titles are around in abundance, you know, like I remember talking to Larasa. I'd found a whole bunch of Teen Titans books for her because every single shop I go into, there's Teen Titan books, you know, so it was easy to find a nice chunk, a nice big run for her, you know, whereas she was having a hell of a time.
I wonder if the whole comic book shop explosion happened in the same time. Probably it did, I guess, in Canada as the US.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because it's so expensive for like me to send you or you to send me a package across the borders. But obviously there's a way to do it where that part of it is not an expense for shops and stuff. Otherwise otherwise you'd be paying twice as much as what we pay.
Absolutely. Yeah. They must be getting some sort of deal on bulk or something. I can't put my head around it.
There must be some commercial way to ship that's just like pretty close to normal shipping costs within the country.
Yeah.
Which makes me feel if they can do it for businesses, why can't they do it when we want to send presents to each other?
Yeah. Yeah, because the price is unbelievable sending stuff and receiving stuff from the States for me. I mean, I've done it because it's things that I've wanted or whatever, but yeah, the cost of shipping is always
it's
just
like doubling or tripling your cost in a way.
Yeah. Well, and that was the big thing, that In Stock Trades or whatever that site was that I looked, some great books where you got the ink all, some great books and browsing through it and then kind of going to the checkout point and seeing the shipping to get them to me is like, wow, this is no longer a deal. This is now more than if I spent gas driving around town and hunting for these books.
Right.
You know?
Now you might as well just ask your comic book shop to order a copy and pay cover price.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, the only other thing that I kind of enjoyed reading from these 50-cent bins were these ones. These Corbin from Fantagor.
Oh, wow, cool. I didn't even know about that one. Corbin and Bruce Jones?
Yeah. So it's Rip in Time, 1, 2, and 3. I think it was, it says on the front, a 5-issue series. Pretty standard, but I love seeing this early Corbin. And I talked briefly about it in one of the last videos there, that it seems like this Rip in Time #1 might have been one of the first things that they printed. So it's really interesting reading the letters when the letters kind of start appearing in these Fantagor and just kind of him talking about it. He reprints some of his older material, and what he did was he redid some of the art to get rid of the nudity. His whole point with this Fantagor was he wanted to kind of get into more of a comic book shop and direct market. Right. So he felt that he should kind of tone down the nudity and the language and that sort of thing. Yeah. I mean, he gets some pretty angry letters from people who have said that, I read those original ones. How dare you butcher your own art? And what do you think you're doing? And but the stories are pretty good. And he talks about kind of trying to dive into color, because later with the Den series, they're in color. These ones are in black and white. It's cool just because he's really upfront in the letters and kind of the writing inside the cover with how the company's going and what his goals are. So it's also nice to track the history like it is with PC and Eclipse, or EC and Eclipse rather. It's nice to kind of track their history because they talk about it a lot. You know, one of them had a flood at the company and lost a whole bunch of comics and that sort of thing. So it's kind of neat historically to see what was going on with them as well as the books. So
when I was a kid first discovering Corbin, I was sure that in the future all his comics would be worth like $50 a piece. And you said you found those in 50-cent bins? 50-cent
bins, yeah. But I mean, that's the thing. That was a real find. And I expected bringing the stack of comics up to the guy. I had been forewarned by one of his employees that he might try to haggle with you. And as soon as I found the Corbin books, as soon as I found the Mobius stuff, I was like, okay, well, here we go. And I mentally prepared myself to kind of fight him on 50 cents a piece.
Right.
But he didn't try to charge me more at all. He said, hey, you found some really good books. You got quite a deal. $25, please. I gave him $25. That was it. But I could see maybe there was a little bit like, damn it, you know, because I've never found Corbin books even like that this cheap. Usually they're in kind of even those, they're not super expensive, the $5 range probably. But yeah, I thought for sure it would bite me in the ass.
Yeah, but he's not something that most people are hunting down anymore. Whereas he was once this thing, you know, this great white whale that you wanted to find more Corbin comics.
Totally, but I think his name is still associated with that kind of thing, though, because I have seen some of his books pretty pricey, and again, just because it's him, you know, and he had a bit of a resurgence, I guess, over the past couple of years. But yeah, it seems to be something else I just stumble across, you know. So
yeah, well, and he and Mobius were the huge breakout stars, I think, of the early heavy metal, and
yeah.
Mobius is still really hard to find, but
yeah.
And obviously he has a core group of people who still buy his books, so Dark Horse will put out anything he does.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing that what he does is still so good. I mean, I think he's over 70 years old, like 72 or something.
Yeah, it's still all real fantastic quality, you know. It's great stuff.
Yeah. I was shocked.
This Rip in Time.
I was shocked when I came back to comics and saw that he had done some work for Marvel and DC, or at least for Marvel. Some Luke Cage, I think. I still haven't tracked that down, and some Ghost Rider.
Oh, really? Hey.
Yeah. So that's interesting. But he stopped doing that. I wonder. I don't know what was going on there. Maybe he thought he would like doing it more or needed the money. But he was always someone who, even though he was really popular, permanently stayed out of the mainstream.
Yeah.
Moto Matt asks, have we picked up Providence by Alan Moore yet? And what did we think of Neonomicon? And I have not picked up Providence. I plan to pick it up in trade. I actually got Neonomicon out of the library. And it has a long sequence of a woman being raped by a Cthulhu-like animal.
Oh, I heard about that. Yeah, I haven't read it. Yeah,
I just wasn't in the mood for that, and so I returned it to the library unread, or only partially read. But maybe some other time, you know, in the larger context of Alan Moore exploring Lovecraft, I should read it.
Yeah.
You haven't been picking up Providence, I assume.
I haven't. I don't pick up any of that. No. I mean, I'm kind of. I mean, I can appreciate Alan Moore's stuff, but I've never been a huge follower of his writing or his books. I haven't. You know.
And I've been a pretty big fan of Alan Moore, but I don't pick up everything he writes. And I did pick up Crossed 100, and I found it just sort of it was interesting, but it didn't grab me the way a lot of his work that I did like has. So I'm just waiting on Providence. I hear some people really loving it. And I think that Matt really likes it. I know he, in general, has been liking these recent Alan Moore stuff and maybe liking the Crossed 100 more than me. Red Vitamin Blue says Stray Toasters was epic too.
That's right, yeah.
I don't know that one. And Gore Vidal says that was a wonderfully disturbing series. Have you read Stray Toasters?
Yeah, I've got the graphic novel of it. It's Bill Sienkiewicz that did that one, and that was one that.
Okay.
That was one I've had that graphic novel for I don't know how long. That was kind of an early introduction for me to his art mainly, and kind of it really fit into the mold of things that I was looking for at the time. I remember it making a pretty big impact on me when I read it. I think I read through it a couple of times. Hi, how are you? Yeah, I loved it. It's a great book. It's fantastic. Yeah,
I'll have to look for that too then.
Yeah, I think it's pretty easily available because I think it got reprinted a number of times. So, yeah, a visitor. We have a visitor.
Hi, Lillian.
Say hello.
Hello.
Say hi. How are you?
Look at all that long hair. I remember when she didn't have hair.
It's true. It's all over the place now.
Look at your hair, Lillian. That's awesome.
She wants the hood up. So
Does Lillian like to wear hoodies?
She loves hoodies and hats and glasses
and does she look more like her mother now?
The accessories now, quite a bit. I mean, she always has, for sure. Oh. Like a lot. Hey, look like mama.
It seems to me as they get older, they tend to look more like mom.
Yeah.
Like when they're first born, they look a little more like dad. I always figured there was a biological, evolutionary reason for that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think what I've heard is so the father sticks around is what I've always heard.
Right. Yeah. My daughter looks totally like my wife now. Man. So great to see you, Lillian. Do you need to go, Terrence?
I think so. Yeah, maybe we should wrap it up. Yeah.
We've been talking a long time.
Yeah.
Thanks to everyone's have been watching. Carlos and Tim and Matt and Gore Vidal and Sarge America Mike and Sean Riaz and Nick and someone who I don't know, Only Comic Books. I'll have to check out his channel. So thanks for everyone for watching and commenting, and thanks a ton for Terrence.
Thanks for having me.
We'll do this again soon, depending on your schedule and mine.
I think so. Yeah, we definitely should.
Lillian, take good care of your dad. He really needs you.
Say bye-bye, Lil.
Bye-bye.
Nothing? No? Okay. Thanks, Damien.